following episode is brought to you by Holy Grail Records and the Brewer's View podcast. Welcome to Evansville Podcast. My name is Jason. Thanks for listening. On today's show, we will be talking with Nathan, Farrin, and Drew about their podcast, Don't Quit Your Daydream. We discuss how they met, how they got started podcasting, what their favorite episode was so far, where they got the idea for Good Cop, Bad Cop, how they edit, being consistent on releasing episodes, getting guests to cry, and having similar guests as other shows in the area. Now, a word from our sponsors. Holy Grail Records is celebrating Record Store Day at River City Mercantile on Saturday, April 22nd. From 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., there will be an expanded inventory including new releases, rare finds, gently used records, music from regionally based acts, as well as cassettes, 7-inch, 45s, and CDs. There will be low-key live music from Evansville artists in the afternoon, so swing by and enjoy a cup of coffee and the atmosphere. Plus, buy at least 3 12-inch LPs and get 10% off your entire order. Keep up with this event and other happenings at Holy Grail Records by following them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Holy Grail EVV. I'm not used to you guys talking at normal speed, because I always listen at 1.5 or 2.
You're one of those guys.
I've been doing 2 lately. I jumped up.
You like the chipmunk sounds?
Yeah, I leveled up. Which the theme music is weird. And like I listened to the theme music at normal speed before just to try to remember what it actually is supposed to sound like, and I was like, oh, that is way different. So you guys don't do the 1.5 speed when you listen to things?
I've considered it, and I actually thought about it because we have that tri-state podcasting thing that we all Facebook group in and message each other.
Yeah.
And what made me think about this is somebody posted something like there's a lot of podcasters but not enough pod listeners.
Right.
And I was like, not in my case. I listen to at least maybe 10 episodes of something a day, but I could probably fit in 20 if I spent it.
That's exactly why I had started speeding up, because there's too many. There's too many.
I drive like 2 hours, like to and from work. That's not 1 hour there, 1 hour back each day. But I have a hard time like filling a lot of that space.
Okay.
I've thought about slowing it down, but I can't do that.
See, I can't even listen to as many because of my job. I'm on the phone all day.
You actually have to pay attention to normal people and interact. It's the worst. Can you speed them up?
Well, see, that would be awesome. I'm into that.
Now we're talking. We'll work on that technology. So the Don't Quit Your Daydream guys, I'm sure everyone recognized your voice.
Hey.
How do you guys know each other?
So I met Farrin. Well, let me start with, because it probably makes sense to start with you and I. Drew and I met each other. I feel like your first shitty restaurant job that you have, or your first terrible job, you walk out hating that job and everything about it, but you make a lot of good friends because you all suffer together. And so Drew and I have been friends for going on maybe
like 8 or 9 years.
8 or 9 years. We almost hit our 10.
Wow.
What anniversary is that? What do you have to get me?
Is that silver?
Yeah, I think it's the silver anniversary.
Silver microphone?
Yeah.
You have to buy me a silver microphone.
Plastic.
So Drew and I have been buddies for a long time. And then recently I started a big boy job. And that's where I met Mr. Farrin. And we instantly hit it off. I can't even remember what our first conversation was about.
I remember exactly. It was about Rough Riders and professional wrestling. I don't know why.
Well,
it's instant best friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't know why that came up, but it did.
But yeah, I almost thought like my ability to make friends was broken, because in my adult life, it's like, I've met a lot of friends, or made a lot of friends, I should say, but no one that really you extend that like next level of hanging out with and
Sure.
make plans with and really book things a lot. So finally, you and I became friends. I was like, oh, it's not broken. And since knowing you, I've made a lot of good friends. So you show me that I can love again, Farrin.
Wow. It's beautiful. So you know each other for, like, how many years, I guess, has it been for you? Then you two, then
3 or 4.
3 or 4. Okay, so you guys aren't like childhood buddies that decided to do a thing or whatever. So okay,
yeah.
Let's say you count like our adult life as childhood.
I mean,
part 2.
You get to define that when you're an adult.
We're basically giant children.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. So yeah, why podcasting then? Why get into that?
So I don't want to be the one that barges in here.
But I mean, it was kind of your idea to start it though, because we were kind of spitballing back and forth at work because we sat diagonally across from each other, and so we just came up with like a list of awesome people in the tri-state to talk to. And
I feel like you have to go back further than that, though. Farrin and I used to. One of the first things we did when we started hanging out is play music together. So, we were in a few different bands, and then I was like, you know what? I was like, I think I can't do it anymore. I don't have the time to really sit and write music and perform, and it's kind of I don't know. I was getting exhausted from it. So we still had all these microphones and all of this equipment, and we're like, well, what can we do with this? What are different things we can do? Right. And I listen to podcasts all the time. I think I almost just stopped listening to music, or I don't listen to the radio. All I listen to is podcast. Your podcast, national podcast, local podcast, whatever I can get. I just can't get enough. And I was like, maybe that's an idea that we can have. And we shot across some ideas. We already talk all the time. We talked so much at work that they had to separate us.
That was a question I was gonna ask.
Yeah, it was literally, I felt like I was back in high school. They're like,
it's like, Farrin, go to that side of the room. Nathan, you stay here.
So bad.
And they didn't even want to approach us about it. We just had like an email where it's like, Farrin, you're going to be moving to this desk.
Like, what?
Huh. They didn't want to deal with the tears.
Yeah. So we started it, and right away we kind of learned that it would be nice to bring in a third person. Just because Farrin is the busiest man alive, and when all three of us can make it, it's nice to have someone be able to run the board and the sound and stuff. So
that would be great.
Yeah.
I mean, 80% of what I do anyway is just keeping Rambo calm.
No.
You've met him. Yeah,
I've met him.
You know
No.
Your studio is much nicer than our studio, quotes. There's no dog, and my wife's clothes aren't everywhere.
Yeah, well, I cleaned up earlier, and I don't let the dogs in here.
Hey, it's a good call.
Yeah. But, okay, so let's go back for a second. Drew, do you play any music instruments or anything like that? Because I'm going to be super jealous if everyone here can play but me.
I want to say yes to make you super jealous, but if I'm going to be real, not really.
Okay, cool.
There's a little bit of guitar, but it's not even beginner level.
All right. Well, I'm still jealous. It didn't work.
I succeeded.
You succeeded. Dang it. No, that's cool because the equipment. I mean, that is the big. If you want to sound, like anyone can just grab a computer, even has a built-in microphone, or your phone, even. But the quality, there's something about having big boy mics and
That's always my biggest piece of advice, I think, to anyone that reaches out, like, hey, how do I start podcasting? And it's, you almost don't want to tell them to go out and buy the most expensive thing they can, because then if it doesn't work, they wasted all of this money.
And then they blame you.
Right, exactly. But you need at least a decent piece of equipment. Otherwise, the sound's just not going to be there.
Yeah. I remember I had a crappy USB, not crappy, but it had a USB mic for a while. And it's like, once you switch over, it's like, oh, that's what it can sound like. Nice. And then, and then Clark comes over, the Clockwork Nights podcast guy, and he's like, yeah, if you did this and this and this, and I was like, oh, now it's actually a thing. It's I don't feel guilty about people listening to it. Yeah, it's good to know those people, sound people. But yeah, so you mentioned like you thought there was a lot of people in the tri-state that you wanted to talk to. So, but you don't focus necessarily on the tri-state, right? You guys talk to anyone.
Yeah, I guess, really we thought of people that would be attainable, which, leads in turn to tri-state.
Sure.
So we definitely started with tri-state, and then as things have grown, whether it's people that we know that are going to be stopping by through Evansville, and we've started Skype interviewing as well, which is always kind of risky. That's like a whole other variable of things that can go wrong. Yep. But so it's extended a little bit beyond. But once again, just we haven't started really being brave enough to travel to people yet. So we have to make sure that they're going to be cross-roading through Evansville.
With Skype, why would you?
Yeah,
technology brings us closer.
Yeah,
I know, but there's something about being able to look somebody in the eyes.
Yeah,
there is. Look them in the eyes in Skype.
That's true. That's true. You're not wrong.
They're slightly virtualized, but
I mean, they have that fishbowl sound sometimes. It's kind of
it humanizes them.
It does humanize some of them, maybe.
And we talked about equipment too. So if they're using their phone on their side of the Skype or just their laptop computers, then it's sometimes there's a slight echo to it. And
right.
I don't know how you are, because I know you listen to a lot of podcasts too. If I listen to somebody and it's a Skype interview, if it's not high quality, I'll probably turn it off every time. Like even if it's somebody I want to hear them interview.
There's times I've turned things off where I was like, I can't do this, but sometimes I don't know. It's kind of hit or miss. It depends if I really want that topic or something, or that person. Like, that one, he never does podcasts or whatever, so I need to but I totally get what you mean. And then you guys have this concept, the good cop, bad cop. Whose idea was that?
I don't know.
See, nobody wants to be the bad cop and just steal the idea.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Usually
I think that Drew came after we were doing it.
idea. Yeah.
I think it was just our baby together. It sounds
Beautiful mix.
How do I dig myself out of this?
Yeah.
We were trying to. I remember specifically. I wanted to include some things in the podcast that makes it stand out. You know, because you listen to people's podcast and they have different a segment, so to speak, of what makes it stand out than other ones. And I was also trying to think of a way that, because I don't think it's natural for either one of us to ask like negative questions,
right?
You know, I mean, unless
it's like someone I know.
Yeah, the more I know the guest,
right? But even then, the bad cop questions aren't.
Yeah,
it's not like you're
too bad.
getting them. You know,
right.
It's like,
It's not a gotcha, but at the same time, it's, you know, because with every hobby or passion or something that somebody puts themselves on a limb with, there's a lot of, you know, with as many successes there are, there's always more failures, and typically they're more fun to talk about. And whenever you're trying to promote yourself, you'll typically skip over those moments, but honestly, they'll lead to the best stories. So usually the bad cop questions are my favorite of each episode. You know, it doesn't matter if I'm asking it, Drew's asking it, or the rare times Farrin chooses to, but the bad cop's always my favorite part.
Just can't just summon that bad cop thing.
It hurts sometimes.
It does, yeah. I get it. No, I get it.
I think people are always shocked whenever, or I know I'm always shocked when Farrin's like, I want to be the bad cop. And the first thing I want to say is Farrin hates you.
Well, and it's always like, there's no question when it's time, because it just comes out. Like before he even says it's time for good cop, bad cop, it's like, it's time for, I want it. I want bad cop.
It just takes over. You're like, I have to do this.
And a lot of people were like, well, so do you write those questions down beforehand? But you almost can't, because if you already have a plan of what you're going to ask, and Drew, you and I were just talking about this, 9 out of 10 times, we're going to talk about that during the interview. So
it ruins all my bad cop questions, always.
You can always see the other person's face whenever a question gets asked, and they're like, that was my question.
I start deleting stuff off my phone.
Everyone sucks. So how much research do you guys do before you meet somebody?
I think it kind of depends on who it is.
Yeah.
Like Nathan, I feel, does probably the most research.
Yeah, and you know, I'm trying to think of whose episode I actually started that on. Because I used to not. I used to just be like, I'm just going to shoot from the hip. Everything else in life, I shoot from the hip. And this, I was like, you know what? I think it makes it a little bit more significant if I can pull some stuff out. And so if I, especially if that, and that's, you know, if they have a backlog of stuff and I'm able to do that, it's awesome. But some people's hobbies don't really, you know, they don't have something where they're promoting themselves or they talk about it. You know, like we've had paramedics on, and it's like
you can't really
research a paramedic, you know?
Right.
WikiLeaks, maybe. I don't know.
You can research the field.
A lot of bad cop questions there.
You can research what a paramedic does in general, maybe not specifically that person, and try to
hopefully not.
Right?
I feel like you kind of don't want famous paramedics.
Exactly. I
think at that point.
That's true.
Oh man. So yeah, and especially around here too, because we're not a LA or whatever, New York City. So it's even harder to find. I mean, just from personal experience, it's hard to find information about people sometimes.
So my approach is maybe kind of like the active listening portion. Like Nathan will spark a topic, and then I'll kind of gather what they're saying, and then just throw something in from there to like a side question or something.
Okay.
That's
my method's a little more panicking the entire time, trying to come up with enough questions to land 3.
Yep.
And I'll usually have that number until Nathan ruins 2, like 3 of the 4 that I had.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's admirable what you do, because I know there's times where I'm like, okay, I don't know where I'm going to take this next. And that's always when either Drew or Farrin will step in and ask something. And I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I had something to say.
No doubt. Where do you, well, before I go there, I remembered that, and I'm kind of surprised you guys aren't wearing the same shirt today. I'm kind of disappointed that you didn't show up in your merch.
You know, this is
it's a rule in music, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a rule that you never wear your own merch.
Yeah.
So instantly,
it's a dumb rule, man. You got to sell that stuff.
I know. I learned right away too how much harder it is to sell stuff when you're not like a musician or a stand-up comedian where you're going somewhere to kind of promote your shirts, because then you just have to trust or hope that people stop by your whole website or you know, they listen and then go find your shirts. So hey, at dqydpodcast.com, there's some shirts.
Find us on Twitter, Instagram.
Exactly.
Is that a plug?
Yeah,
No, we don't do that.
I don't like the P word, but there's a plug ski.
Yeah. I'll cut it. Don't worry about it. I'll just insert Evansville podcast.
Perfect.
So do you guys have like a favorite episode that you've done, and why is it number 25?
Yeah, one of you guys want to take yours first, or?
That's a classic stall technique, by the way.
I know. Yeah, that was.
That's great. It was perfect.
I definitely treat yours. Well, no, because
No, it's not your turn.
You've already given up. You've given up your turn.
No, mine was probably when we talked to Brian Fleming. Like, for some reason, I had the most fun on that one.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Farrin had to miss that one.
And I regret missing that one.
It was
and let me say this for those that aren't aware of Brian Fleming or all of our backlog of episodes for that is, but Brian's a humanitarian, and so that's somebody that if you tried to look up, he wouldn't have 1,000 different things,
right,
but he's very hands-on taking kids to Uganda and doing a whole bunch of charity work in Uganda. So it was a really interesting, just the whole story I thought that he told was interesting. And what was also cool about Brian is, I used to ride the school bus with him in middle school, but I don't think we've had an adult conversation or maybe even talked to each other in a decade. So, in my back of my mind, I was like, he's going to come over here and we're not going to have anything to say. And he's going to clam up and it's going to be awkward. But no, it took us down a real cool journey. And he did a great job of telling us, I don't know, I guess painting pictures with his words on exactly what it is he experiences when he goes over there. But yeah.
That's good. Farrin.
I know.
He saw us with open my mouth.
Really, it's hard to pick my favorite because
you like everybody. We get it.
You're such a cop out.
What a Farrin answer.
But I feel like episodes, 45, 6, 7, and 8. It was just like a string of awesome interviews. Like I felt on top of the world.
I like 1 through 50 personally.
1 through, yeah. Everything before that, except for 25.
Yeah.
Hands down the best.
Yeah. But just it was a lot of good energy, and it just kept building and building and building. It just felt like we were on top of the world.
It was a very upbeat couple weeks.
Yeah.
In a completely selfish promoting kind of way. That was like I think our biggest jump in numbers. There was like 3 or 4 episodes where like each episode went up by like 100 people. And I was like, this is awesome. I like this. This is going to keep going on forever. And then when it stops, you're like, oh.
Like what? They're refreshing every 5 minutes. I don't know what that's like.
What did I do?
The counter just goes up by 1 every time.
Yeah.
You click, and
And you're like,
1 every time.
Oh, there's a... Okay, 1's good. Yes.
Then you realize it's you and you're sad.
Right. And you're like, oh, right.
And, that was what was really funny about having you on, and because you gave so much good advice there that I find now is more applicable. And I'm like, oh, that's what Jason was talking about. And where it's like, I got it when you were saying it. I got it when you were saying it, but at the same time, it definitely is hitting closer to home. And I even re-listened to that episode not too long ago, and I'm like, yep, everything he says is right. And I appreciate you being someone that we can reach out to, and ask advice for. But now,
from now on, it's doors are closed.
This is it.
You got what he wanted.
I think my favorite episode, because I know you guys are so curious.
Yeah.
Mine's the Miller Brothers from Miller Made Collective.
Another one
That's
I
a good
missed.
one too.
And
I'm noticing a trend here.
Hold on.
Look, I could use a co-host.
I was so scared.
We'll talk.
And here you are staring at all 3 of us. But I was so scared to. It was our first time we interviewed 2 people at once, and I was so like, "Oh, this is going to be a disaster." And I don't know Kyle or Corey, and they both showed up, and the dynamic was good, and it was almost, since we included both of them, it's like they were able to get reactions out of each other that maybe someone that just met them wasn't able to evoke. So it was nice, and then both of those guys were really supportive, and I feel like after that one, it's like I kind of got it more. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it made me grow a little bit more. So I feel like there was an evolution after that episode, so to speak.
Cool.
I think of my true number 1.
Oh, here we go.
I'm sorry.
No.
So Clint and Jared of the arcade.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it was just so high energy, and they were so passionate about everything.
Yeah.
And they all had just wonderful stories, so it just drew you in, made you laugh.
Wonderful, but I think they also kind of hate each other.
They do a little bit, but it's
but it can work for some people.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
So are you like guys naturally inquisitive in real life outside of microphone?
Oh God, no.
I feel like I am.
I would feel like I am too. Drew's made.
I don't like people a whole lot.
This guy.
I mean,
get him.
I like knowing how things work.
Yep.
I don't really care about how people.
Well,
work.
you're inquisitive in a different way, and I think that's because you don't want to. I always think that you don't want to marry someone that's just like you. You don't want to open a business with someone that's just like you. You don't want to start a podcast with somebody that's just like you. And I think that's why that works. Is Farrin's super nice. He's going to talk to anybody that wants to have a conversation with him. Drew is a little bit more right-brained, and he likes to know how things work. So he could break that down a little bit further. And I just don't shut up. I just keep asking questions. So
I can vouch for that.
Yeah. So the marriage of all three of us, we're in one of those weird relationships. But no, it works. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a straight line.
So it's like very like a lot of sister wives in the podcast world. I don't know where I was going with that.
Sister wives from now on?
It's the new, I mean,
DQID sister wives. Yeah.
Oh no.
I'm kind of in
Farrin.
what
board.
DQIDSW. I mean, just keep adding letters. It's the next T-shirt at least.
I know it's always funny when people are like, "What's your website?" DQYD. I'm like, "Don't quit your daydream." It's obvious that
it's in the name.
Theo, he was at an open mic night, and someone thought it was something with your dad. I was like,
Don't question your dad.
Don't question your
Don't
dad.
question your dad. Podcast. No, that's a great one. I'm totally taking that one.
I'll spin that off with you.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah. All right. Do you have kids?
No.
Perfect.
So I know plenty about them.
Don't question them. That's all I know. That's awesome. Yeah, I always wonder because like I'm the same as Drew, that I don't, or at least before, don't necessarily care for people. A little more now, but people are the worst. But so like whenever you leave the mics and you're out in the real world, as we say, do you're like, man, I wish we were podcasting right now. When you're talking to somebody, have you had that come up?
A couple times.
I'm trying to be cognizant of how much I bring up podcasting.
Oh gosh,
when
it's
I'm not
so bad.
work.
I would say it's like we're like CrossFitters and vegans.
It is absolutely that.
I need to get out of this game.
I didn't even think about that.
It encompasses so much of what you do, and all the because you typically tell people about when I was doing this with this person, when I was doing this with this person. Well, a lot of my human interaction is podcasting, so I'll be like, what I learned the other day? Well, we had this guy on our podcast.
Exactly. So you got to phrase it differently. You got to be like, here's random knowledge, and like, oh, how'd you know that? It's like, oh, I know a guy.
It's not a guy. But it's true. It's like you're probably way more plugged in than you ever were before. You're you know things that's going on, and people are like, how do you know all this stuff?
Yeah, there are things that exist. I had no clue. They've been around forever.
That.
That was one of the first things you told us. I remember when we started podcasting. You're like, how do you guys know all these people?
Right. It turns out people like to talk about themselves, right?
Yes.
Oh, people love to talk about themselves.
And that's a motto that like I will take to the grave, because if somebody wants to come on, I mean, getting them to talk, as soon as they start talking, people love to talk about what they love or what they're passionate of.
Right.
So, the format of us, talking to people about their hobbies and passions, well, it's like almost asking me to talk about podcasting. I'll go all night. We can have 3 parts of this, and I'm not going to shut up about it, So, and that's typically, I mean, with the exception of a few, you have some that, are yes, sir, no, sir, that take a little bit harder to crack. But usually people love to talk about themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially, like you said, we're talking about the passions. They're like, finally, someone will listen to me.
Listen to me.
Yeah, like some people have like Sam, actually, the paramedic. Like he loves talking about his job. Like I don't know if you've hung out with him a whole lot outside of the podcast, but like he's actually talked about wanting to come back on a couple times. Like he wants to just hang out.
Yeah,
that dude will talk about his
You're
job.
Like, no. It'll be the 3rd time we've moved since we started this podcast.
I like Sam well enough.
No, it is funny sometimes, after you have somebody on the podcast and it's like, well, what's our relationship from here? I'll be your buddy. I'll support you and whatever. But it is funny. It's like, oh, now this bridge is built and you know where I live and you know my cell phone number now. And it is funny, but people will keep reaching out after a while. And no, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. By all means, we can be buddies. But it is funny. Like, where do we go from here? It
is different. Yeah.
I mean, I officiated Sam and Melissa's wedding.
That's true.
Oh yeah.
That's not weird. That's not weird at all. But that is true, because you get to you're sitting down and you're talking in depth about something they absolutely care about. So you hopefully at the end you're in with them, because you've shown an interest in them. So then you get BFFs.
Yeah.
PFFs.
PFFs.
Podcast friends forever.
I'm
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Oh, is that what that stands for?
I'm on board.
All right. I thought BFF was big fat fatties, but I didn't know. Now I want to hear Farrin call someone that for some reason. I don't know why.
Stay tuned to an intro. It's coming. Drew and I have something that we're going to hide from Nathan.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we can talk about it. I'd rather talk about it on this show.
No, we're going to save it.
I'll do it.
No, yeah, you got to tease. You got to tease it out.
Let me just say that I hate whenever I hate when people are like have their own like hashtag. Let's say my name's Bob Nation, or come on, Bob Crew, everybody get out there and vote. Come on, my Bobanites. Like, I hate
Bobanites.
So they want to call it like the don't.
Bobanites sounds very familiar for some reason.
I love that name though, Bobanites.
So they're like, let's call people Don't Quit Your Daydreamers, and
That's
I was like, I will turn everything off.
More. Yeah. So we're going to save the rest.
Oh, see, man, my I would say hashtag sister wives. Is what
Oh, now it's sister wives.
You're not helping.
No,
He's not trying.
it's perfect. It's perfect. No, I want you guys to fight a lot and crack, and then not do it anymore, and then I'm on top. Yeah, you just get everybody coming.
I don't know if it works that way.
Like, I don't think so. But
there's one too many Evansville podcasts. Have to start wiping them out. Yeah.
Wouldn't that be funny? Some sort of Hunger Games podcast world. Yeah. Do we have too many podcasts in Evansville? That is a legitimate question. It seems like there's a lot.
There's a lot, but it's a good thing. I think it's a.
Can I tell you like a similar thing that this reminds me of? It's almost like deja vu, because when Farrin and I did music, I did hip hop, and I felt like since it became more accessible to like make your own instrumentals and beats, all of a sudden everybody rapped. Yeah. Everybody was a rapper, and usually they're only a rapper though for 3 months. So I'm going to equate that to podcasting in a sense. It's like there's a lot of podcasts out there, which makes it, you almost have to break that bubble of promoting. You have to. I feel like after you've done it a while, people start to take it serious. Mm-hmm. So even though there's a lot of podcasts, I think a lot of them drop off right away because either the quality's not there, or B, the consistency's not there. We talked about how much today. It's like I probably put an equal amount in time into all the behind the scenes podcasting stuff as I did my actual job. And I think a lot of people don't realize like that's going to be an aspect of it. At least if you're going to take it serious.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like if you're going to promote it, you have to, like as far as like booking guests and making promo work and editing and Drew, you worked all day on the website today.
Instead of actually working at work.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like
maybe we shouldn't talk about that. Set that on the down low.
Yeah. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. So even though there's a lot, I think it's. Once again, the ones that stand the test of time, I think will break through that bubble. And, if people listen to it and you put out a good product, they're going to listen to the next one and the next one. At least you hope for, knock on the table. But so there are a lot. But I mean, once again, I feel like, I don't know. I'm rambling now. Please listen.
Filibustering.
Please listen.
You nailed it. He's
like, I don't want to answer this question. So I'm just going to talk about.
I think he just lost himself partway through.
That's awesome. Yeah, and now you can't control the editing on this one, so I can make you guys out there.
Oh no!
My laziness means that editing happens very little.
You're well played.
The day before,
I'll wait till the day before and be like, good enough.
Yeah,
he's like, I was up till 2:00 editing the podcast. Like, don't do it on Monday.
Right?
I don't feel bad for you.
But why would you do it earlier?
There's so much other.
I have to go to WNIN to do we have a segment now, and I have to edit down a clip, and it's like it's due at like 10:30 or something on Tuesdays, let's say, and I'm working on it at 9 a.m. on Tuesday. So yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. I think pulling just individual clips, because my background is like through radio through USI. And I actually hate that part. Like edit like taking a longer show and editing just highlights from it. Yeah. I don't know. It's something to me that I find frustrating because it's all so good.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's all gold. But yeah. Have you found it that when you do edit though, do you think, does that enter your thoughts whenever you're actually recording? Do you think, okay, we got to do this or make sure we're talking about this way or something, set up anything?
I feel like you're pretty present the whole time when you're talking.
Well, I'm glad you said that. No, can I tell you something that with editing, on a good week, we typically on a good time, we typically have 6 weeks in advance. We try to book, far out in advance, and then we have a backlog of episodes. That way, we don't have to rush in case a weekend falls through.
Right.
So it'll like, so whenever I edit, it'll be like the first time I ever listened to it. You know, it's like I forget everything we talked about. And so I'll hear the guest say something while I'm editing, and I'm like, Nathan, please say this next. Like the appropriate thing to say next is this. Like, please don't be an idiot. And sometimes I say what I'm hoping. Yeah.
Like, whoops.
It's about 50-50. Yeah.
Oh man. So what? Not to steal a bad cop thing. I bet this is a what do you not like about podcasting?
Yeah, it's a good question. One of you guys want to go first?
I'll go for it.
Filibuster.
See, as Nathan alluded to earlier, there's just so many things that I do at the same time.
Yeah.
So scheduling is kind of a pain sometimes, and it's scheduling with everything. Like soccer will get in the way. I'm like, why am I doing this today? We've got podcast, or maybe soccer didn't get in the way, and it's like, why am I doing a podcast today?
Right.
Or some kind of music or normal married life things.
Oh, that.
Yeah, that whole thing.
Yeah.
That's never a drag.
Never. No. But it does get in the way, right? No.
It doesn't.
I don't really know for me. I guess like I'm not the biggest fan whenever I have to step in for Farrin, purely because I'm not anywhere near as charismatic as he is. Because I feel like you always have questions lined up, and like I'm like the entire time furiously typing into my phone, like I'm not texting, I promise. And I'm typing my questions in, otherwise I'll forget later because I try to be like, here I am. And I'm like, oh crap, I missed like the past minute and a half.
It's always funny when he because Drew likes to put his notes in his phone. I mean, you know, because we're in 2017, and so he'll start.
Idiot, yeah.
but sometimes guests, you could tell they're like, is he texting?
I've actually started prefacing the things like I'm going to be on my phone a little bit. I'm writing notes. I'm not texting.
Yeah.
And they still think I'm rude, I'm sure, but
yeah.
You know, my answer to that question is my favorite and least favorite day of podcasting is the day our episodes come out, because and this always used to stress me out with playing music, is, you know, you're promoting the show and you're trying to make sure people show up for the show, you know, and like you don't want to have an empty venue, and so much work goes into releasing it on Tuesday, and you know, if it doesn't go exactly how I planned it, and Facebook's kind of a fickle beast to figure out, like as far as promoting with it, it's like, okay, like this got so many likes and shares, and I know this person doesn't have the following that this person has, but I know Facebook will kind of put the pillow over you if you promote too much stuff or share too many things, then it decreases the reach. So I haven't quite figured that out. So it always stresses me out, you know, just making sure that it's a good show and is successful. And then also, you know, I mean, kind of to echo what Farrin just said, but there's times where life gets busy, you know, life gets really busy, and you know, we're not at the point where we're getting any money for this. So, you know, it's funny that, you know, something that drains so much of your time is what you get, you know, the least amount of get back for it. Yeah.
Subliminal messages.
Right.
It's not about that. You know, I mean, it definitely is, you know, we almost named it Don't Quit Your Daydream, so we couldn't quit it, you know? Because that would be
pretty
no, the irony of that would be gold, though.
Like, what happened to those guys? They quit.
They made it 2 episodes in, and I guess they said screw it.
They said, quit your daydream, actually.
This is unrelated.
No, this wasn't my daydream. Don't get me wrong.
But we were, so we're coming up on our episode 52. So we're coming up on our year mark. And I was like, well, you know, I think something that we're going to do is go through and talk about each guest and what we thought about each episode, and kind of give an update of what that guest is doing now, and kind of give a further kind of plug. That way you can kind of see an evolution of where somebody started and now where they are, you know, in the you know, whether it's been 11 months or 1 month since they've been on. But it's funny because we were going through it, and I'm like, oh, that person quit. That person quit. Oh, man. Oh, that person quit. And it's like, how do we gracefully talk about that? So I think we'll just talk more about the episode than what they're doing.
That's legit, because I was just thinking about that. I was thinking about, I mean, there's a lot of businesses and stuff that no longer in existence that I've talked to them, like, what is going on? Apparently it's hard to start a business or something.
That's such a scary aspect.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's odd. I think it's unique to this area.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
That's always, anytime we have somebody that's starting a business, I'm like, why? How? How so composed?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like, how do you make the money? Yeah. And then the second question is always, will you sponsor the show? That's all you do.
I haven't got bold enough to ask yet. It's an
upcoming goal.
I know. It's like asking the girl to go on a date with you. You know, well, we wanted to make sure that we had a few milestones first. I think, you know, we wanted to make sure that there was, So, I picture, not, I hope this isn't pulling the curtain too much, but that's something that's one of the questions I asked you about is, how do you handle advertising? If people reach out to you, what do you typically say? And blah, blah, blah.
I'm not for sale.
So I want to make sure I have a compelling enough argument of why they should sponsor us, and enough feedback and enough social media following to make it worth their time. I don't want to feel like I just got somebody's money and they didn't get anything back in return out of it. So I want to make sure that it's an investment to be brought up on the show, and then it's also we could promote them a little bit further with our social media. With that being said, too, if they have a list of demands, I'm not desperate for it. So if they want something really weird that's going to take a bunch of time up, I don't need it.
Right. Or they want to control your message somehow. Or right. Hey, could you? No, no.
You can't really swear in my episodes.
Sorry about it.
You can work around that just by bleeping it out. You learned how to do that.
That is true. I learned to bleep stuff out right away because we had somebody on, and in our bad cop, we were like, "Who's the worst person you've had to deal with?" We're like, "You don't have to use any proper nouns." And he pretty much gave the person's address out.
Let me tell you.
He gave their first and last name, their business,
social security number,
their Ashley Madison account.
Yeah, and as I'm editing it, he was like, "Can you edit that out?" And I was like, "I guess so."
Yeah. It's funny. Your editing skills do come in handy. There are times for sure. But yeah, that's interesting. It's similar paths, I say. And so you guys are pretty consistent on your release times. I was gonna say it's every Tuesday, right?
Tuesday at noon.
Every Tuesday,
Well, it's up before.
It's up before noon, but we give the old plug ski at noon because we think that works the best.
It's lunchtime. You can listen to the podcast.
That makes sense.
But and we haven't missed a Tuesday yet. So once again, we're coming up. I think we just hit 50 weeks, or we're coming up on 50 weeks, 50 and we haven't missed one yet. Yeah. So. And I'm proud of that. Hopefully we never will. I mean, as long as we're running and stuff. We definitely have the backlog for them. It's just, is Nathan going to freak out and not have something edited?
Just do a repeat.
Yeah. There was one time I was
going to have reruns.
Hey, guess we really like this one episode.
I was so hungover a few weekends ago.
Don't say who the guest was.
I won't say who the guest was. I will say, oh gosh, we might even listen to this.
I know.
They can probably figure it out.
Yeah. I won't. Well, what I'm about to say is gonna damn me anyways, because it's the only time we've ever canceled.
There it is.
and it's the only time when I felt terrible about it, and I was. I don't know. I'm not in my early 20s anymore. I can't drink like that, and that's what I learned. And I was like, I'm not gonna get this edited either. There's no way. I just ruined our podcast. So
that's why you don't do it on Monday.
I have to learn to be an adult. Yeah.
Or just do it anyways. Just suck it up and do it, man.
That's true. It makes me remember all the times where it's you'd stroll into college or something, hungover, or I stayed up all night, and it's no one can ever tell the difference. And now it's if I go to bed at 1 a.m., then it's I come in with bloodshot eyes and ache all day.
Well, it gets better though as you get older.
Okay. I was like, I've never heard that.
I know, I was like, neither.
It's because it's not a thing. Well, I do appreciate you guys coming over, and I hope I was trying to stretch it where there was enough distance between when I was on, because I know we talked before about when you have the same guests on the same shows, it's kind of irritating, a little bit irritating.
It's a total thing. It's funny because that's something it's funny to talk to you about, because I'm sure we have the same people reach out to us a lot of times.
Oh yeah. And there's time sensitive stuff, right? Yeah. And you're like,
right. Well, I have to have it. I'm man, Jason just had this guy on.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know what podcast you all listen to, but that happens a lot. I think on a national scale, you'll have an actor promoting a movie. So they'll do Nerdist, WTF, Joe Rogan. They'll do everybody all at once. So the best thing I try to do, at least because you're pretty good about releasing yours a little bit sooner. So I like to listen to yours, see what you talked about.
Still questions.
Still question.
I need this one.
But I'm I can tell the guest is trying to drive it to what he talked to, with you, and I'm like, no, I'm not even going to go.
We're steering it this way.
Right. You're sorry, I'm ready for that. Yeah. Because I think a good example of that one is Matt Hart. And I saw he popped on yours, and I was like, that son of a. But no, I thought we were friends. But it was I was listening to that, and you're talking about different things. You got, I'm like, dang it, I should have asked that question.
Even between like when they had like WTF and Nerdist had the same guest on, it's usually a completely different show.
Well, you know, and I feel like the Matt Hart one is a good one because if somebody wants to go back and listen to both of them, I mean, they're just completely different interviews, almost to the point where it sounds like a different person. I mean, you're able to, because yours starts out really jokey with Matt, and I feel like, and I like because you bust his chops on a few things right away.
I got quoted To Kill a Mockingbird to him, and he was Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, and he did not get it. So I was so happy with that. I'm like, this is absolutely making the podcast.
Right. It was the perfect way to open up because it just completely flips it. And I was like, it was just a completely different where we were a lot more serious with him. So it's two different sides of Matt. So
which is really weird for us.
I know. Yeah.
We're usually not super serious. We're more self-indulgent than not most of the time.
And I mean, to be fair, it is a serious subject.
True.
So you're probably way on.
You're not wrong.
You're on the right side of that one. But I know Matt.
I wouldn't have been.
And so I can joke with him a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's a thing too. It's like the less you know someone, the more you try to stay on book with them.
Business,
Yeah, I did. It was last year. There was some guy came on, and he worked at Fifth Thirds, and they were promoting some event that was at the old National Events Plaza, and I made some stupid joke, and he just didn't even acknowledge the joke. He just it's like, yeah, it's a great event. And I'm like, oh man,
come on,
it's a little give and take here, guys.
I've heard you depress that. And you're like, no, this is why this is funny.
He was much bigger than me. So I was like, no, I'm good.
I won't say who, but we had that recently where I'm making jokes and I'm trying to hit different senses of humor. I'm like, I'm gonna make this guy laugh.
Yeah.
Never got him to change emotions the entire time. I'm like, I'm really glad there's three of us because the fact that I can make Farrin laugh, at least there's laughing.
I was giggling and I looked over. I was like, oh,
okay.
And I was just sitting there laughing at Nathan.
Yeah, there you go. Well, at least you're entertained. Yeah. One way you're getting entertained.
Yeah.
Maybe that should be your goal. Is like you gotta I'm gonna break this dude.
Yeah.
And every episode, like where's the breaking point?
Right.
We've had a couple people tell us that our bad cop questions are too nice. So we could step up our game there.
Well, and it's ironic because my goal is always to make somebody cry.
You're not even trying.
Well, I don't mean cry you can't believe he said that to me, but I want somebody to talk serious. I'll know that's my next thing is I want to hit close enough to home. I want someone to tell us a sad enough story where they cry. And then I can check that off the old list.
Nice.
You're a monster.
Hey.
Like a Barbara Walters special kind of thing.
I'll start writing some nice music for it.
Ooh. See, that is I'm super jealous of that.
Yeah, we just have music on demand.
Because I got nothing. You do not want me making up music. Like it's called whatever these loops are in GarageBand. That's my making music. Thanks guys for coming over all this way. I know it's pretty far.
6 blocks.
Yeah. So I think the podcast per capita down here, we've got so many podcasts just on this neighborhood from here to where you guys are. There's probably 4 or 5.
Oh yeah, there's probably 10 in Evansville, and I think maybe 80% of them are downtown.
Yeah. So. Yeah, we're good.
This is the spot.
This is the spot. There's like some sort of weird antenna down here.
I was trying to get us to move up to the north side so I didn't have to leave the house, but Nathan wasn't having that.
No, man. You gotta if you're wanting to do something cool, you gotta come downtown. Yeah. Sorry. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having us.
This will never air.
Evansville Podcast is a proud member of the Evansville Podcast Network. To subscribe to the podcast, check out iTunes or go to our website at evansvillepodcast.com. You can follow us on Twitter at EvansvillePod, or you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/EvansvillePodcast. Thanks for listening. Don't forget about Record Store Days at River City Mercantile on April 22nd, hosted by Holy Grail Records. Good job, everybody.